Let's go ahead and get started. It's a little bit of a smaller crowd today. So first of all, Cindy is off on a few days vacation, so Mary was kind enough to sit in today, so we thank Mary for that. We're going to call the meeting to order at 2:37 according to that clock. Let's see, in terms of folks who are here, Austin is here. Hello, Austin. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Don't see any of the management group here at the moment. John Wood or David LeClaire. EC is not here. Is someone here for Julie? Did I hear?
I am. Yeah.
Rod's sitting in for Julie today, and Danny, our co-chair is here. Carol is here, and Cha is here as an alternate. Are you representing Gary today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So there you go. We'll go ahead and get started. Let's go to the minutes first of the regular meeting number 7 for Thursday, March 6th. So I'll entertain a motion. Okay. Should we hold these over to the following meeting, or what's your pleasure?
Is there a quorum?
Is there a quorum? Oh, that's a good point. All right, so we'll hold them over to the following meeting. Any comment? Okay, so we'll hold these over to the following meeting for lack of a quorum. Okay. Public comment. Does any member of the public wish to make a comment? No, Dan? Okay, no, Deborah?
No comments.
No comment? Okay. So, let's move into a budget discussion. Today, we want to try to tackle one specific issue. Before we get into the issue, which is basically 4B, I wanted to just briefly talk about, or actually ask the group to, when they've got some time, to take a look at the 2014-15 Legislative Analyst Office review of the community college budget. And it looks like this document. It should be part of your packet. And to make kind of a long story short here, the the Legislative Analyst Office is very much in support of the governor's budget as the governor presented it. It starts by providing just kind of an overview of what the system looks like, what the ethnicity breakdown of the system is. It talks about the manner in which the funding is going to be allocated, the increases. For example, on page 2, it talks about Prop 98 funding and how much they predict that's going to increase next year, which they say is 8%. Talks about spending increases on ongoing one-time purposes, and you can read the rest of it there. And then it gets into some of the specific details by category, by categorical apportionment by category, as well as the overall budget for the system, which is on page 3, for example. It talks a little bit about the enrollment growth on page 5 and what they're predicting. And for example, 3% system-wide will fund approximately 34,000 additional full-time equivalent students. It also talks about, again on page 5, the new formula that they are proposing, and I'll talk about that in a second, that will prioritize where those growth funds go. And in short, they talk about to meet the greatest unmet need within a particular district. Now, I may have said before, but if not, I'm going to say it again briefly. In our current system, when the system receives additional growth money, it's just a pot of money that goes to the district, and the district then allocates that money as it sees fit in support of what it sees as local needs. The term growth is a little bit of a misnomer now, because in reality we're really talking about restoration dollars. In 9-10 and in 11-12, the districts were reduced by the amount of FTS that they received due to budgetary constraints. So each had its base reduced by a certain amount. In the case of Pasadena City College in 9-10, I think that number was about 500 or 600 FTS as I recall. And then in 11-12, the number was about 16 or 1700 FTES. The state has restored our 9-10 FTS, as they have every other community college, by using some of the so-called growth money that they have given the system over the last 3 years or so. So it really wasn't growth money, it was restoration money. As we go forward into 14-15, that 3% growth that they're talking about is really restoration dollars to bring, to get the districts whole, if you will, in terms of all that FTS that was removed from them in 11-12. So the first thing to bear in mind is it's not really growth, it's restoration. But the second thing, and the most important thing, is that what they are proposing is this notion that instead of just giving it to you, you're going to have to achieve certain or meet certain parameters as defined by your local district's needs. So there's a variety of metrics that are being developed by groups around the system, and these groups include faculty, student services folks, academic folks, in terms of academic affairs folks, CBOs, CEOs, chief student services officers, that whole group, as they try and work with the Chancellor's Office to develop what these new parameters are going to be. At the end of the day, they're probably going to be things like if the data shows that you have a significant number of developmental education needy students, then you'll be allowed to grow in that area. If the data shows that there's a particular CTE area that supports your service area, your region, your area, then you'll get growth money in that area. If the data shows that you're a strong transfer institution and there's unmet need in your area for more transfer students in other institutions, you'll get money for that. However, if the data shows, for example, that you have a very strong program, a certificate program in X, but the employment base in your area really doesn't need a whole lot of X, it needs Y, then they're going to say to you, well, you can have that program, but if you grow it, you're growing it on your own nickel, or your own dime. We're not going to pay you any more for that, okay? So it's going to look at all these unmet needs that are specific to your area, and it's going to say to you, the growth money we give you is only in relation to the things that meet this so-called unmet need. Now, when this first came to light, which was when the governor's budget was proposed in January, the hue and cry went up all the way across the state from a variety of different entities saying, there's not enough time to figure out what these measurement instruments are going to be. There's not enough time to even make the kind of enrollment management decisions that you might make as a result of that. So the request has been to defer that until at least 15-16 and maybe even 16-17. So the latest that we've heard is that it's likely going to be deferred. We won't know until the May revise comes out around May 14th, May 15th. And if it is deferred, then that 3% restoration will just come to us as it normally does. It's just a pot of extra FTS that we have to generate in order to get the money. So that's what they talk about in there, and that's a pretty significant thing. And the LAO's office basically verifies that.
Here's a quick question about that, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Chancellor's office is looking at a particular region, what are the unmet needs? Are we looked at as a district in terms of geographical territory, or are we just part of the greater LA mix?
The answer is I don't know, I think in LA it's a particular challenge, which is one of the problems, because, for example, within 30 miles of our institution, there are 18 other community colleges. So it'd be very, very hard to slice and dice and dissect service areas to that degree, because we are this gigantic metropolitan area. Dan.
I was wondering how transfer fits into there, because your student, and he wants to be an architect, that's not meeting a local need,
Right.
it's.
Yeah, so the both of you are touching upon what is one of, and two of probably 100, 1,000 questions that are out there that people are trying to figure out. The governor is really adamant that new money, quote unquote, which is really restoration money, goes towards unmet need to try and increase completion rates defined as certificates, degrees, and transfers. And he wants to make sure that however unmet need is defined in this area is being met. But, who knows where it's all going to go. Okay, so then there's money on page 6. It talks about student success and support programs. The combination of that is the old matriculation, which is now the SSSP, Student Support System Program money, or Student Success and Support Program money. That's going to be $100 million, and then they're putting aside another $100 million for student equity plan to fund all these student equity plans. Those of you who are in College Council this morning heard Dr. Levo reference our student equity plan. Well, this $100 million is set aside to help fund that. There's more challenges with that, which we'll talk about at this meeting or maybe a later meeting, but basically part of the problem with that money is that it has matching requirements. So on the one hand, they give you the money and say, great, here you go, do your thing. On the other hand, they say, but you have to match it with your own money. So the net result is that you really haven't gotten increased dollars. But they're still putting those requirements in front of us. So that's being debated and discussed as well. Page 8, this is kind of interesting. Information and data suggest proposed enrollment growth is likely too high. With improved economy, many districts are having trouble meeting their enrollment targets. So Board of Governors has only requested 2% growth for 2014-15. The governor proposed 3%. The Board of Governors is saying, well, I think we'll take 2% only, and we'll take that other 1% and put it into other areas, such as scheduled maintenance, such as equipment, such as maybe that will show up in a COLA. The point is that many districts across the state are having a very difficult time meeting their new targets. As the economy improves, we know many students opt to go to work as opposed to further their education because they have to put food in their tables, I guess. Okay, so and then they talk about withhold recommendation pending receipt of updated information on current year trends. So again, this is dated April 2nd. We are now at April 24th. May revise comes out in 3 weeks, give or take. So that other trends that they're looking at right now. Department of Finance, in particular, is looking at the numbers with the Chancellor's Office, and they're negotiating as to where this is going to land. So we'll know by the middle of May where this is going to land. And then to postpone the implementation of the new enrollment growth allocation formula, that's kind of what I just talked to. Student support programs, I don't want to take too much more time on this, but this speaks to proposals for student support programs are on the right track but could go further. These are the 8 current student support categorical programs. They're recommending an alternative approach with the colleges with substantially more flexibility by consolidating 7 student support programs under a block grant. So instead of taking, Joe, remind me, is it $2 million, $3 million in categorical money we get right now? I think it's about $3 million we're getting.
I think it's a little more.
Okay, so whatever that number is we're getting now, it's all, we are required to place it in these buckets. But they're suggesting that we would get the money in a block grant, and locally we would be able to decide how we wanted to allocate that money. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, so that's the LAO report, and so that's just kind of an overview of that. The other thing that we have here is the breakout on facilities, okay? And basically, it's 14-15 budget, maintaining education, facilities in California, facilities in California, the LAO report. These are excerpts. I'm not gonna take the time to go through this, but basically there's a strong recognition that facilities have suffered a great deal during the economic downturn, the recession, and they're gonna be throwing a fair amount of money at facilities and scheduled maintenance next year. And we're gonna get a chunk of that. There are matching requirements, which we're about to segue into, and Joe starts talking about some of the priority lists. But that's, again, for further reading. We can talk about that later. And then we'll just hold these until we get to the end of the meeting. So, I will now be quiet, and I will ask Joe to talk about 4B.
Okay. Is this what you're talking about? 3.8?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So what we're handing out is a initial draft for budget augmentations for 14-15 fiscal year budget. This is not an all-inclusive list. It's not, the dollar amounts that we have started to look at are not accurate. It will, as we go through the budget prep process, we'll start to identify what the actual costs are. But currently, we have about 22 different items that we are aware of that we need to potentially budget for fiscal year 14-15. This was shared internally and has been updated. So some updates are on page number 2. We have a Fund 41 technology, which is the second line on the second page. Initially, we thought the technology fund for ongoing technology projects would be about $1.9 million. The initial budget that ITS has submitted for fiscal year 14-15 has gone up to $2.5 million. But again, this is just the initial phase. So right now we're talking about budget prep, where we're looking at the budget. Once the prep is up and ready and we start having discussions with the various areas across campus, then budget prep becomes budget development, and then we kind of go through this process. But this is where we are right now. So we have about 22 items, and right now, because we don't know, we're making what we think are appropriate guesses at these dollar amounts. And the total dollar amount is just under $21 million if all of these things were funded in the budget.
So what we would propose to do, at a recent meeting, I went over what the governor's budget means to PCC, and all the different funding opportunities that we have if it were to remain as it was. And at the end of that analysis, it showed that we had about 3.4 million of, if you will, additional general unrestricted revenue. It was the 0.86 COLA and the so-called growth, restoration, access money. Then it showed the different categorical money that we would be able to get. 1.9 million for student success, however the matching is yet to be finalized. 1.9 million for student equity plans. Again, the matching is yet to be finalized. Roughly 1.65 million for deferred maintenance. That has a match requirement. An instructional equipment allocation of 1.65 million. And then there's this deferred one-time cash payment that you might recall that I talked about of just under $12 million that will bring us whole for all of the back FTS payments that we had not gotten before. Okay? And then there's some Prop 39 energy efficiency dollars, and then there may or may not be some RDA money. So what that's summed up to is 3.4 million of unrestricted, about 8.5 million of restricted with strings attached to it that we'd have to do some matching for, and then that roughly 11.9 or $12 million of just one-time cash money, which we should not use for ongoing expenses because it's only one time coming in. But some of that money could be deferred to this list if we saw it. So we're not dealing with a lot of additional new money, but we'll find out more about what this really is come the May revise, and then on May 22nd or 23rd, or wherever the date is, Joe and I go to the annual spring ACBO, which is the Association of Chief Business Officers meeting, and that's where we get the full Monty presentation from the Chancellor's office and everybody else, and they say, you can this is something you can begin to take to the bank as real. We, just FYI, we will take to the Board of Trustees at the June 25th meeting, the tentative budget, the so-called somewhat rollover budget that we have to take to the board and get board approval so we can do business effective July 1. But as is normal, the real finalization of the budget occurs in July and August, and we take to the board at the first meeting in September, which is the date escapes me right now, maybe September 9th, something like that, the final budget. Okay? So what Joe has put together for us, and
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
So the final, so we have a requirement to submit the budget to the Chancellor's office, I believe, no
September
later than
15th.
September 15th.
Right.
So that's why the final budget, adopted budget, is presented to the board in early September. They approve it, and then it gets sent off to the Chancellor's office.
Right, and so what our job is to prepare a tentative budget, get it through Brac to whatever degree we can get it through Brac, which we hope is 100% support or something akin to it or close to it. Then we'll take it to the Board of Trustees Budget and Audit Subcommittee, likely somewhere around the middle of June. We'll present it to the subcommittee, and then we'll take the budget to the board, the tentative budget to the board on the 25th, and then we will continue to work with at least the board subcommittee and Brac over the summer if you folks want to meet as we work towards the final budget for 14-15. But let's take a few minutes and go over each one of these item by item. We don't expect any decisions today. This is just, we're just sunshining a lot of this stuff, and this is just to explain kind of where we are right now. People are aware that the district offered a supplemental early retirement program. There were 19 people who have taken advantage of that. There will be an estimated annual cost to fund that SERP of $264,000 per year for the next 5 years. So that's what that cost is at the moment. Yes.
Quick question on that. So, but is anywhere else in the budget the amount that they're actually gonna save by having those people retire early and either not replace them or replace them with people that are
Yeah.
taking less?
There will be when we do the final employee count numbers and we establish what total amount. In this case, it's classified in managers. What the 13-14 classified payroll was, what the 13-14 manager payroll was. We're still pulling those numbers together to see the difference.
So these are just, so this isn't technically, this category could end up being an actual savings for the, but there is an initial
Yeah.
cost for these people.
Yeah, exactly right. And you're right. You're correct, Andy. There very well could be and will be an offsetting savings that will help fund that. But we're just kind of identifying what we got to add to the mix for now. But it's a good point. And the other thing we have to remember is that not all 19 of those positions won't be refilled. Many of them won't be, but a lot of it will. Some of them will be exactly as they are presented. Some of them, the money will be reallocated to other urgently needed staff positions. And that's kind of what we're still working our way through. The other OPEB, which is other post-benefit increase, other post-employment benefit increase, so we need to add that to there. But this is post-65.
Right.
So there's
It's two different things.
yeah.
So this is a very small dollar amount to cover the increase of the 19 retirees for them to receive the $1,440 a year. And then the OPEB is the other post-employment benefits. So they're one and the same, but we just broke it out to show how much it's going to increase for the $1,440 a year.
Yeah, so we'll try to be a little bit clearer.
But not all the retirees are getting that $1,440.
Right, exactly. So we will refine that number to be the exact for the number that are qualified for it.
Are any of those that are retiring between 55 and 65?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how many?
Not at the top.
Yeah, okay.
No, but that's a good point. Okay, so.
So we'll tweak those numbers and we'll get that correct. Many of you have heard about the Student Access and Success Initiative funds for the Academic Senate. And so we are plugging that into the budget for next year.
Will
There's,
they be allowed to roll over the money that they don't expend this year to next year too?
the answer is, we budgeted $200,000 to $400,000 this year because we knew that they couldn't get it up and going in time. So we will roll over the $200,000, okay?
And then add
400 to that?
400 to that, or?
No, it'll be part of this number,
Okay.
so as it goes, because at this point, it's a $400,000 obligation. Okay. And I think that was correct, we had 200,000 in the budget for this, right?
Yep.
So, what I think they're suggesting is a good suggestion is that this number should be changed to 200,000, because we've already got 200,000 in the budget to pay for it.
Right, but the total dollar amount in the budget will be the 400,000 for fiscal year 14-15.
Right, but this is new money that we're talking about here. See, so the
Gotcha.
new money is 200,000. So
For
we'll-
a total of 400,000.
for a total of 400,000.
Okay.
Centennial Facilities Master Plan, 400,000. It's going to be in that ballpark. Hopefully a little bit less, but it's going to be in that ballpark.
Is that the total cost of master planning, or is that just a year's cost?
That's total cost to create the master plan for the campus going forward. Now, we've had other investments, you know, as we are gearing up for it. For example, Blue Point Consulting we've used to help us with all the visioning sessions and help us prepare the process that's getting us to the Centennial Facilities Master Plan. That's cost the district around, or will, about 80,000. Okay, we have 10 new faculty positions that we are adding to the district, roughly at $100,000 each. It could be a little bit less than that, but that $100,000 number is a number we've used average employee expense, but it's in that neighborhood. We have not landed specifically on whether we will or will not add up to 6 new staff positions, but we at least at the moment, we are putting a placeholder in the budget for that. District-wide professional development, there's been a lot of discussion of late about the need to enhance and fund professional development for the district in relation to classified management, ongoing faculty. Whether the APL is going to continue or not, we don't know, but we're just putting some money in the budget so that we can deal with professional development in general. Dan?
Yes. What you have it written here, it's new faculty positions. I was on the priorities committee, and I know many of them are simply replacement for people who have retired. So it's not exactly new, and I'm pretty sure that the same would be true for many of the classified staff.
I'd be happy to remove the word new.
Okay. all right.
Yeah.
And if we take, if we set aside $1 million for new faculty positions, then somewhere, once we have a CERP, we're gonna need to, account for the savings as well.
Right. So as we calculate all of that, we'll let everybody know what the delta is, if you will, between the two. Yes, Dan?
Okay. One other thing, I note that there's no line here for new administrative positions, and we do have a number of new administrative positions we have.
Right, and so what we have, I guess there's 2 ways to look at that. The new positions that we are hiring right now were 13-14 budgeted positions. So that money is in the 13-14 budget, and that will roll into next year. There was analysis I did for Melissa Michelson, which I provided to Eduardo this morning. I'd be happy to, and Eduardo's going to share it with the leadership of the Academic Senate Board. If you guys want, I'd be happy to send it to anybody. And it basically shows where we are with management positions and that it's directly in line with what the board approved at their December meeting, tied to the reorganization and what have you. And it shows our numbers and all that kind of stuff.
Could you send it out to the committee?
Yeah,
Or
be
have
happy
somebody
to.
just email it out?
Sure,
Great.
sure.
Thanks.
So you wanted me to give them that.
Can I just
Sure,
add
go ahead,
one thing?
sure.
So just for clarification, when you ask about the administrative positions, are you talking about the director of fiscal that was just opened and closed, the controller that was open and closed, the director of purchasing and
Yeah,
contract
the whole,
administration?
15 of them that are coming out.
Ombudsman,
Yeah.
everything that's a management position that's currently.
So they were approved in the 13-14 budget, but many of those positions were not filled. They were already current district positions, and they weren't filled, so the money was already in the budget
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just wanna make sure I understood
So
the
you're
question.
talking about the interim's salary?
No, the point was is that, well, I want to answer one thing before I lose it. At the bottom of that form that we're going to send you, that analysis we're sending you, are the 9, I think it was 9 new positions that were approved. So that's clearly listed what they are
In the 13-14 budget.
in the 13-14 budget with, and as Joe is saying, with a combination of monies that were reallocated from other staff positions or approved as just 13-14 funding for the new positions.
And they were approved in December?
In December, when the org chart, with the new schools model, the new organization charts and all that kind of stuff, at the December, whatever the date was, Board of Trustees meeting.
So are they in the adopted budget for 13-14? You know, were they there in the original budgeting process?
The lump sum, some salary dollars were there. Whether they were there specifically to those positions or not, I think the answer would be, in some cases, no. But again, as we did the analysis, and it's not just the analysis on the academic side, but it's also the analysis on the business and college side. For example, 3 positions that we're hiring right now are a new director of fiscal, which is a replacement for retiring Marie Descalzo, a controller position, which we have not had before, but we desperately need, and a budget analyst position.
So out of those 3 positions, only one of them is a new position with new funding that was approved in the budget for 13-14.
Right.
So what we did was so Marie will be retiring, the person that comes in after her will just continue with that salary that's in the budget. The controller is actually money that was in the budget. The old position was a supervisor of accounting. So looking at the classification and it being as old as it was, we updated it to make sure that we were able to capture the skill set that the college needs in order to do that work. So the salary or the money was already in the budget, has been in the budget probably for a decade or longer. So we just changed the name of the position.
And at
The
least,
new position
yeah, sorry.
that was.
But not the salary.
So they're starting,
They're starting at-
as high as the people that are leaving?
No.
That's what I was.
Oh, that's what you just said.
No, I'm just saying,
That
the money
Marie's
for the salary-
position-
The money for their salaries, Marie's salary, is already in the budget.
Okay,
So if we hire somebody and they come in at $25,000 less, that's great. But the money is already bookmarked or earmarked in the budget because it's a salary that's in the budget.
But at the higher level.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
difference is, it'll shake out, so there will be potentially the savings in the salary line of the budget for classified management for faculty, however those positions are.
Most
being
people
replaced.
come in on the C level, you know, the way it works, so,
Yeah, my point is just, it's not new money, the money's already in the budget.
No, I understand, but, this is what the college has done for years, and I understand they're trying to be conservative and everything, but they budget at this amount when they know they're gonna be paying this amount, and so at the end of the year, there's always $4-5 million at the end of the year, but during the year, when you're asking for something,
Looks
there's no
better.
money.
Yeah.
well, this year, from your lips to God's ears on what's left, because it's a tight year this year. But I hope you're right, but I understand the concept that you're speaking to, I truly get it.
Yeah, so, and when we shared the budget process a couple months ago in this meeting, and I made, what I feel is the appropriate way to budget, is that you always budget at the top step, and you brought up the same concern. Bob and I talked about it afterwards and said, no, the district has a history of budgeting at the mid-range, so this C step, whatever it is. So yeah, it won't be perfect this coming year, but it will be better than what it has been in the past.
The other thing that, well, where I was going with that whole line to begin with is that because of our new Lancer point system, because of a variety of other reasons, the SERP and other things give us an opportunity to sort of retool in our fiscal services area. For example, at least one of these 3 positions, and possibly 2, will have CPAs. We are, take it all the way back to where I started on this, it wasn't just the academic side of the house that required some new positions, it was the business side of the house as well. That's an example of that. Another example is our purchasing department. At one point, we had 8 employees there, a director of purchasing and a senior buyer position. Now we're down to 3 without a director, without a senior buyer. So one of the new management positions is a new director of purchasing. So she or he will come in with the skills that we really desperately need. We are I always get the number, it's a $250 to $280 million a year operation. We have over 2,700 employees by the time you count up faculty, staff, and student assistants and college assistants and all of these different categories. Huge number of moving parts with a technology base that we were in the midst of converting from the 19th century, on the 20th century, all the way to the 21st century. And that's just requiring a whole number of organizational changes and staffing changes and skill set improvements, and we're doing a lot of training, and I just have to, the staff has been amazing because they've done the double duty of trying to learn the new stuff while operating in the world of the old stuff, while doing the work of the business on top of that. So it's been a difficult year, actually almost 2 years now, and we think we've got another year of this to go before we come out the other end in a lot better shape than we are now. And that's just being very true about what's going on. So professional development, part of that money would be for some of the things I just talked about. Part of it is for how we're going to deal with the Academy for Professional Learning, whether that goes forward as its current derivation or not. But there's a need for that. Accreditation support, everybody knows we're going into a significant accreditation cycle, and so there's funding that's required to support that. Sunshine in the various agreements that are out there right now is a 2% increase. I have no idea whether that's going to be 2%, 10%, 1%, 0%, but it's a placeholder for funding.
Can you give an example of a sunshine increase in the salary?
Well, I'm told that the one that was presented to CSEA and the one that was presented to the POA, for example, includes a 2%. I think it's, and there's a 2% for the Faculty Association, right? Actually over 3 years, so 6% over 3 years. I don't know where we are yet with CFT, if anywhere with them, but, so anyway, the point is, we've always adopted this Me Too approach, so that's what that 2% represents. Yeah.
On the accreditation support, what kinds of things would that money be going for?
That is for consultants, it is for stipends, it is for
Climate survey.
and
The one
just-
that was, another climate survey?
No, it's the same one, but because the service actually won't take place until July 1st, we have to budget it for 14,
Okay.
15.
yeah.
Okay, but so it's.
Yeah,
It's the same.
yeah, Matt Jordan and Stephanie Fleming presented a budget, and that's what the
So are you actually not paying them until?
The service doesn't actually start, from what I understand, until July 1st. So
Yeah,
even though we're preparing for everything.
This other survey that we're all thinking about was not necessarily part of the accreditation, it was,
The Modern Think survey?
yeah.
Right, two
That
separate
was
things.
not part of the.
That's this year, and that's funded
Okay.
in 13-14.
And then, so what we're talking about is something different.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the consultant's name is Julie Slark. Does that sound
Yeah, she's
familiar?
not the surveyor though, she's
No.
she's the proofreader.
Right.
Gotcha. So that also.
Is reassigned time in here, or is that? in-
No, reassign, well, I'd have to go back and look at the budget submitted, but, I think reassigned time is part of this for some of the accreditation activities that they're talking about. So for example, I think some of Stephanie Fleming's time is in that, there might be other things. We can bring in that budget for you guys to take a closer look at if you'd like,
Okay.
I'm sorry, which one is it?
accreditation support,
So the one that Matt submitted?
yeah.
Okay.
The whole other post-employment benefit thing, we can get into a long discussion about that, but the Reader's Digest version is that the district is supposed to have in the neighborhood of $19 to $20 million in reserve or in a fund to fund our other post-employment benefit obligations. And that would be for all of our retirees. And I think we determined it might be 370, 380. The other day, I'm trying to remember the number that we talked about that were all districts. The district has in the neighborhood of just under $16 million in reserve right now. In recent discussions with our actuary, the bottom line to what he basically said is, yes, you are underfunded by about $3 million, but you're also funded you're also in relatively good shape. So you don't necessarily need to put $3 million in there, but you should put something in there just to show a history of continuing to invest in order to get past the auditors who will look at this and see what we're doing with it. Yes?
In the post-employment benefits, is that like 1440 or COBRA? What does that include?
There are two aspects of the GASB 4345. One is the annual contribution that we pay, which is about 1.1 or 1.2 million dollars, which funds the cost for all those employees who retired are between 55 and 65, and we sort of pay that ourselves annually.
We put that in a line item in the budget.
We put it as a line item in the budget, and that's a rollover item. Okay, that's not what this is. Okay, but we also have the obligation under GASB 4345 to fund the long-term, out into history here, of all of our current employees who will retire and those that will retire in the years to come. Every 2 years, you're supposed to take a look at this, and every 2 years, you're supposed to adjust what you do. So we just recently finished that. There was another option that was discussed, and our actuary is going to send us this for this group to discuss and others. This option of our board decided when this whole thing started, and you guys have heard me say this before, not to put it in a lockbox escrow, never to be touched again, but to be able to get their hands on it for exigencies or emergencies that were needed, or to use it for interfund borrowing and what have you. So we've always had the ability to grab that money and use it for something else if we needed to. What you can do, though, is that if you put that money into a lockbox and you invest that money, you use the same return rate that agencies like PERS and STRS does, which currently is about 7.25%. And then you can generate money on your $16 million and use that money to begin to self-fund your situation. So because we use this money as an interfund borrowing mechanism to be able to meet our cash needs, because again, all this is on an accrual basis, we would not, maybe we wouldn't want to lock up all 16 million of it, but maybe we'd want to lock up 7 or 8 million of it, generate that 7% interest, and use that to help the self-fund going forward. So we have the actuary now working on a couple of options and scenarios that we'll discuss, maybe take it to the board subcommittee and discuss it with them, and then maybe a recommendation to the board would go forward saying this would be a way for us to start doing some self-funding. Because this number is growing, it's not necessarily exponentially, but it's growing rapidly, because we're all getting younger, right? And so the number of retirees coming forward is going to begin to increase significantly as we all get closer to retirement age and beyond. And so the actuary looks at that, and there's a big pocket of people between 55 and 65 already, and that's gonna hit pretty hard here from the amount of money we've got to put away. So the $350,000 is a down payment. We can get away with it this year, but going forward, it's going to be a bigger problem that we have to deal with.
So you're saying that continues, that the faculty, we're gonna have bigger groups of people retiring?
All people, all categories, all types.
It's not a blip in?
No, it's not. Well, no, it's not really a blip because this institution, and I think probably many higher education institutions, people just tend to stay. People like to teach, for example. They're good at it, and they get to be 65 and they can still teach.
Well, and a lot of faculty come in mid-career.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they wait around as adjuncts for a decade or so
That's a
before
very
they
good
finally
point.
snag the job.
And they need more years in the system in order to get a decent retirement.
But for us, the upside of that is very few faculty can afford to retire before they hit 65.
That's right.
But for, you know, for classified staff and some management staff, that's really where the liability rests.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, okay, so that's that. Now, our bigger problem, and I'm gonna let Joe speak to this for a minute or two, is the workers' compensation fund obligation.
So the workers' compensation fund is a self-funded fund that the district has to put money towards each year. This covers claims that we may be settling. It covers ongoing medical coverage, anything related to a workers' comp claim. And the same actuarial that is done for the GASB 4345 gives us some knowledge about how we should be funding workers' comp. And this is a much greater liability for us. We're about $1.5 million underfunded right now. So this is something that will also continue to grow over time, and this is not something that we can put off for another year or two. This is something that we really do need to consider funding right away.
And what's the balance in that fund right now?
Well, see, I think correct you, Joe, or ask you this question. I believe our total actuarially computed obligation is something in the order of $3.5–4 million. In other words, they look at our experience rates and they see where they go, and they say, okay, you should have $3.5–4 million in the bank to cover this. Now, the reality is that not all these things are going to hit at the same time, and the reality is that some of these cases are opened up, Cha, for the rest of your life. I mean, for years and years and years and years. But to answer your question, we started the year with $237,000 in that fund. We usually self-fund about $1 million, about $1.1 million in claims that we just pay as you go, but we really should have $3.5 million put away. And every year the auditor nails us on it. And this year we're likely not going to be able to get away with it. It'll become a major finding. So what we've said here is that we think.
And the auditor will let you get away with about half of what you really.
Right. We think to do that. So out of some of that $12 million that might come to us, I would be a strong proponent to say, let's just put $1.5 million of that in there and get rid of that problem.
I'll double check.
Okay, he'll double check to see.
What I
So,
recall is the $1.5 million, so I'll
okay,
double check.
so I hope he's right, but I think I'm right, but I hope he's right. But it doesn't matter. Whichever one is right, we have to fund it when we'll fund it.
So you're saying we spend about 1.1 million, but the auditors are saying you should keep about 3.5 to 4 million.
That's my understanding, and I could be wrong, but that's my understanding of what our situation is. Again, as they actuarially look at our experience rate over the next, I don't know how far out they go, but 20 years or whatever it is, and then the auditors allow you to get away with that up to a degree. But I think this has been not a finding, but it's been a reportable action in the audit for the last.
A management discussion point. I think
Yeah,
is what they
so-
call
I
it.
know you're not the auditor, but I mean, I just got a question, if it's been about 1.1 million on a pretty consistent basis, or, you know, why would they want almost 4 times that much in there?
Because there are some cases out there that could really be serious.
And the 1.1 million fluctuates from year to year. That's what we do to make sure that we're good.
And that's why we have a balance of like $300,000 left, or, you know. But again, some of these cases are long-term, and some of them could be very, very expensive, and
You know, I mean, I could see double the amount even, but to go 4 times, but anyway, I mean, you're not the auditor, so
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
and I think they'd be very happy to see $1 million, $1.5 million in there. I really do, but we'll see. Okay, now the Fund 41. If you flip the page, you see Fund 41 in technology, and you see Fund 41 on the front page again in facilities capital projects. And these are ongoing capital projects, as well as what we predict is going to come out of the visioning sessions. Now, the visioning sessions are these sessions that we've been having as a precursor to the Centennial Facilities Master Plan. It's an opportunity for faculty and staff and managers of particular schools and/or support areas such as student services to spend 3-4 hours together and walk through this process. And coming out the other end is short-term needs, mid-term needs, long-term needs. So one of the things that we really want to be able to say to faculty in particular is that we want to be able to tackle some of those short-term needs. And because we don't necessarily want you to have to wait until we get money from the state, until we get through the master planning process, we figure out how we're gonna get the money to pay for it. You know, we don't want you to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 years for this to happen. We wanna try to begin to address these issues now. We already know that from what we're hearing in these visioning sessions, that there's many deferred projects out there that are either, like this room, for example, is a disaster, right? It could be better, it could be worse, but you know, there are many facilities out there, students tell us all the time, that could be a lot better. You know, that wall, that thing's about to fall off the wall, there's chipping over there, I mean, it's not good. Okay.
You just start by getting the 2 TVs.
Yeah,
It
and
doesn't cost anything.
this is the video, this is the old, the state still has this video conferencing system thing, but what is this, 80s? I mean, this isn't even
No, it's
90s?
not that, it's actually more recent than that, it's
It's
90s.
90s, yeah.
90s, these
Yeah.
giant, anyway. But you're right, and that would be one of the first things to go, but all right, I digress, as I'm wont to do, as you know. The long and the short of it is that there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million worth of wish list stuff, okay? Whether we decide to give it $3 million or not for facilities and visioning requests, as we get more information about the numbers and what we're dealing with, we can decide that. But from what Ruben and others say, that's what they're looking at right now.
On this though, is this to actually fix things like that are falling off the wall, or is it to hire consultants to come in?
Fix things, do things,
So this is
build
actually
things,
to
new
do
things,
things
absolutely.
and make real changes?
And make real, honest to goodness changes,
But
and
what,
improvements.
and then why is it categorized as ongoing? Because when you fix, I mean, I know
Well,
eventually you're gonna have to
envisioning
fix it again,
sessions.
but,
Honestly, I put the word ongoing because capital projects are an ongoing process. One project may be finished, but you're gonna have another capital project that comes up.
So we'll-
So I can take off
I
ongoing.
think it's reasonable because it speaks to an old campus, too.
Right.
well, my problem with it is that every time we talk about salaries or anything else, that's ongoing, which I understand, and you can only use ongoing money for that, okay? But then when you have one-time stuff and use ongoing money for that, then you're taking money out of the ongoing that could be used for other things, and you're using it on one-time stuff. And I'd like the college to stop doing that, because they've been doing that. The reason our campus is in pretty good shape, I know it's got problems, but we've spent a lot of ongoing money to keep our college looking pretty nice during these rough times.
Right.
Unfortunately, the staff, faculty, classified, everybody, have been hurt, you know, salary-wise. So that's, my concern is how we categorize these things, because the rule before was, well, if it's ongoing, you gotta only use ongoing, and if it's one time, then you can use one. Well, if we're gonna get $11 million of one-time money possibly, I'd like to use a lot of that for the one-time stuff,
Right.
so that we have more available for the ongoing.
No, I think
Anyway,
I-
I know we're running out of time, so.
No, but it's okay, but I think the point is well taken. So we will remove the word ongoing, if for no other reason, we don't wanna confuse the issue. Okay, so, and we'll have a projects list and things to look at, so everybody will have a better idea of what that is, and so we can talk to everybody about the projects list. Okay, now on the technology side, I think Matthew Keeman and Mark Gutierrez, Matthew, I think everybody knows, is sort of the network guy, the server guy, the instructional technology guy, and Mark Gutierrez is our enterprise systems guy, our Lancer Point guy, kind of the mainframe, you know, the underpinning of the organization from a IT technology thing. So we've been putting a lot of money into both sides of the house over the last several years. A lion's share of it, we did a lease purchase option for Lancer Point of about 6.9 million dollars. The rest of it we got up Fund 41. Even with that heavy investment, we still have work to do, particularly, for example, in the wireless world. Faculty should have their own network, so you're not competing for for bandwidth with the 42,000 smart mobile devices that people are using these days. We need an expanded wireless network just to deal in general with the dramatic increase in mobile devices. We Matthew's done a great job. He's found for like $1,500, he's sort of like these, what would you call them, hotspot things that you can put in various areas to boost things. Long story short, he came to us with another wish list of how much?
2.5 million.
$2.5 million. I don't know, I don't think we can afford $2.5 million, but we're gonna have to make some decisions as to what we do want to do. Or maybe we do want to spend 2.5, but we'll have a list of things for you to consider to look at that. All of which to increase the reliability of our network, the speed of our network, and what have you. We've made huge progress in technology in the last 3 or 4 years on this campus. And there are many of you here who hopefully would agree, but you remember the bad old days when things were really, really bad, and we're doing better.
So this is not only new projects like the Wi-Fi, but it's also to replace old equipment. So
Right.
if we have desktop computers that are about 7 or 8 years old, it may not be feasible for us anymore. So now he's trying to put a plan in place for the replacement of older equipment,
Right.
and that is also included.
And that brings us back to the Bob Cody days, where he had the desktop replacement
3
plan.
years.
Hmm?
It was a 3-year rotation.
A 3-year rotation, so we're trying to get back into that thing. So Matt will bring in and he'll do a presentation for us, and we'll get us a chance to see what that looks like. Then I just, instructional equipment match, they want to give us 1.65 million in instructional equipment money, but we've got to match that with another, it's basically $3 state to $1 district.
So is 1.65 what the state's gonna give us, or is that our part of the match?
The 1.65 is what the state will give us if we give them $550,000.
Gotcha.
Now, we could give them
Oh.
some amount less than that, and then they would give us an equipment dollar amount less than that. It's just, the requirement is a $3 state to $1 district. And in our case, up to a maximum of 1.65. Same thing on the deferred maintenance, only here it's a 1-to-1 match at the moment. Now, hopefully this is gonna change. And if you get a chance to read this facilities report, the California Community College's facilities request is, I'm overstating it, but I'm not really, it's 10 times better than what the CSU and UC put together. So the LAO is saying, give the money to the community colleges, because Fred Harris and that group have really put together a good plan. So they know what they're doing, let's give the money there. So that probably will result in less matching, if matching at all, and perhaps more equipment, more maintenance money to deal with, things like the front walkways out there that are been crumbling for 30
By the way,
years.
as a parent who did the college tour of California
Yeah.
summer before last, the CSUs are in trouble. San Francisco State is a dump.
Yeah.
And by comparison, the UCs aren't much better, but
Yeah.
they're a little bit better.
See, that's good, that's interesting to know, yeah. I'll just digress for 10 seconds. Doesn't the C building look great, the paint job that the vendor did? Everybody should drive down Colorado Boulevard and take a look at the C building as you pass. It looks really, really nice. Painter's done a nice job, very nice. Which gets to your point, Danny.
No, it needed painting.
It did.
Oh, it did,
It did. It did.
It was flaking off of the,
It's an 80, it's an
East
80.
End.
See, that was a nice softball, I just
Yeah.
lined it up for you there, Dan. I digress. They did a good job.
You're the get off my lawn guy.
Yeah.
not in my backyard.
Yeah.
You're making too much noise.
Okay, Rod, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, step and column, we got other things. So student success, student equity, I already talked about that.
Can I just highlight one
Yes.
thing? Right now, we don't know if there's a match, so we're just putting this down as a placeholder in the event that there is a $1 to $1 match. So 1.9 is what we potentially could get. We may potentially have to put up dollar for dollar. So 1.9 is what would be
Right,
a placeholder in the budget.
exactly.
That was for student success, or?
And
For
student
both.
equity for
And
both.
equity, okay.
For both.
But that number might drop, and again, I earlier alluded to the problem that the CBOs have with this, which is, well, it's not really new money, because you're requiring me to match it 1-for-1, so I've got to steal from Peter to pay this particular Paul. So I think that's gonna come out a little bit better when the dust settles as well. Health and welfare increases,
So we have no idea how much, if anything, the benefits will increase this coming fiscal year. So just as a place marker, what I figured was 10%, so $1.3 million increase for health and welfare. And as, like everything else, as we get closer to the date that these new plans go into place, we'll have a better idea. That will either go up or will go down, hopefully.
And our broker, they do the dance with the insurance companies every year about this time, and it's usually early June that we get a number that will stick on the wall.
And again, it's health, is it vision, dental, what is it?
Medical, dental, vision,
Everything that we've currently got.
long-term care,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
all that stuff. Step and column increases average about $600,000 a year for all staff who are due those increases. The equipment lease, Joe, we can speak to that a little bit.
So this is talking about replacing the older equipment with newer equipment and or newer equipment that we've acquired in the last few years where we need to make lease payments. And to be honest with you, this year, for fiscal year 13-14, there was $100,000 that was overlooked to make lease payments on equipment. So we have to correct that in this year's budget. And then the $75,000 is for new equipment that's coming in that's multifunctional. And there may be a longer term cost savings there because if we have one machine that's replacing a fax machine, a copier, a scanner, in future years it'll be a savings. But up front there may be an initial cost.
Then the next item, the School of Allied Health, they have the individual accreditations, and I'll just make this very brief. There's never any money in the budget to pay for these things when they come up. So there's always this last second scramble. So we said, why don't we just, what's the number? $14,000, okay, we'll fund it, we'll put it in the School of Health Sciences budget, and they can deal with their accreditation fees. For things like Rad Tech, the medical assisting program, the dental program, all these different programs that they have to, apparently every year they have to do something, and then every 5 years, 3 to 5 years, it's a bigger amount. Anyway, it's about $14,000 a year at the moment. Marketing. I said earlier when the meeting started, we were talking about the LAO's report and the fact that enrollment growth is down across the districts. Everybody's basically trying to do whatever they can to get students into the door. So there is a marketing budget that we are putting aside for everything from the production of PSAs. You've all seen the billboards that are out there. We are looking at you've seen bus wraps, maybe not wraps, but you've seen the things on the side of the buses. You have, we're doing more zero cost by advertising more with email blasts that have links to very specific web pages that are tagged with things that we can identify which groups are coming back. So we're experimenting with a variety of things, and they're requesting a $250,000 budget for next year to try to work on that.
Who's in charge of that?
Dr. Semyon, Karen Semyon out of the Enrollment Services Office, supported by Dr. Valerie Wardlaw out of Public Relations, and the Enrollment Management folks. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow morning to look at where we are with our current summer enrollments and such.
So is this a new budget item or an increase?
It's an increase.
But what sort of an increase does it represent?
It would represent about a 20% increase, 25% increase?
I'd have to look.
We'd have to look. It's definitely an increase.
It's a significant.
It's a significant increase, yeah.
Over and above what's currently in the budget. That's your question, right?
Yeah.
That that it is a existing item in the
Yeah,
budget.
the current
and
budget is
then-
what, maybe $1 million or so, or you don't know?
That's what I'll have
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
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 And then this is a
An increase
significant
on top of that.
Yeah.
increase. Okay.
And we don't, we don't have to do all of it, any of it, or some
This-
portion in between.
Yeah, this is just a list of things that I've been made aware of throughout the last few months. Again, it's not something that has to be done. It's not something, these dollar amounts are not the amounts that they will probably wind up being, but it's
Yeah.
just a marker for us to start the conversations.
Now, last item, minimum wage increase.
So effective July 1st, minimum wage in the state of California is going to go up from $8 an hour to $9 an hour. We have a very small group of people here on campus who make less than $9 an hour, but we have to budget for the increase. So we're anticipating it will not be more than 30,000. It actually may be a nice chunk less than that. In future budget years, January 1st of 2016 is when we're going to have our major increase from $9 minimum wage to $10 an hour minimum wage, and that's when we're going to have probably a six-figure increase. So just planning for it.
Yeah. So what we will do going forward now is we're going to begin to flesh these out a little bit more, bring more information back to Brac on, like for example, Fund 41 and the workers' comp, and we'll get more detail. As I said, the May revise comes out May 14th, May 15th. Our next meeting, I believe, is on the 29th.
Yes.
By that time, Joe and I will be back from the ACPO conference. I'll do a little recap of what it is. That'll look something like this. We'll have a better sense of what the numbers look like, and we'll be in good shape for May 29th. Beyond that, and I'm not going to speak to any of these, but I do want to tell you that it is worth looking at all the other paper that we provided. Mary Aaron, before you got in here, we did actually go through this, so that's something good. And we talked briefly about this document. But these other things that we've got, the controller releases February cash update. The money keeps coming into the states. CalPERS provides estimate for future rates. We know going into the future, we've got increases in our CalPERS rates, which is Public Employees Retirement System, so for all of our classified staff and a number of our managers. So we can see what the increases are going to be going forward. They've announced that, so as Joe budgets, he will be plugging in these numbers for our PERS.
And these numbers on the CalPERS, they're the employers?
They are the
So
employer's contribution, yes, ma'am. Yeah. So, you'll see. So we're really gonna take it, it's gonna really hit us hard 16, 17, 17, 18, and forward. CalSTRS unfunded liability, there's a nice discussion about that in this community college update. There's a nice discussion on the state budget hearing for community colleges in the next one that I provided. You know, I get these things, they come across every day, and I just pull the ones that I think would be general good information for community members to know about if they so chose. Prop 98, there's a nice discussion about Prop 98 and how it gives the governor more options to shift monies to other things in the state, but it explains Prop 98 a little bit. This next one talked about state revenues exceeding forecast by 7.6%. And at the end of the day, what this means is, and this last one is the March cash update. But at the end of the day, there's no doubt that there's a lot more money in the state. The real question is Jerry Brown going to win his war of doing at least two things? One, fund a super train, or the bullet train. Two, deal with the water projects he wants to deal with. But three, and actually it's four, three, begin to pay down that mountain of debt. And four, put money away for a rainy day. So he's got these priorities, and that's what the world is debating up there, is how much of all this extra money will actually come out to the entities such as community colleges that need them, versus taking care of the other things. And up in Capitol Hill, they're just all playing poker up there. Okay, so anything else to come before the group today?
I'd just like to see more classified, since we haven't replaced the CERT people from 3 years ago, and now only putting 6 more classified in. I mean, we need more classified, because each faculty demands a lot from a classified, and so if you don't match it one-on-one right now, it's always gonna be behind.
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
And there's a lot of stress going on with the classified.
Right. And as earlier we talked about the 19 positions that are being that are retired out, and there at least 15 of them are classified positions, and a number of them are earmarked for replacement. A number of them, the monies will go to other classified people. But you're right, it's an issue.
I mean, to get the morale up around here, it has a lot to do with the workload.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Thank you. So, obviously, May 29th is our next meeting, not obviously, but obviously, if anything comes up in between there and you want to ask Joe or me, we'll do everything we can to get you an answer. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
You bet.